Hello and welcome to Monday's edition of the Football Show, staggering into the week like Wayne Rooney at Washington Airport.
We're here to talk about the joy of Cesc. After 500 games in England, Cesc Fabregas is off. He's leaving the Premier League and he's going to go and join Monaco and his former teammate Thierry Henry.
Let's talk about
Cesc.
Baby, let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about
Cesc.
Let's talk about
Cesc. But just quickly, first, a new midfield teenage talent announced themselves at Arsenal this weekend. Joe Willock scored twice in the FA Cup win over Blackpool, and what a moment that is for any supporter to see at their club. An academy product making their mark on one of the biggest stages. Fantastic. Let's see what the guys at Arsenal Fan TV made of it.
Willock, yeah. Well, you've seen him in the last 2 or 3 seasons. He's not good enough for Arsenal, but he still scored 2 goals. So he did a job.
But hold on, give him a chance. I thought today.
He did a job. He did a job against the team where the fans can't even turn up. I'm not even sure their players turned up.
But that wasn't the best entrance this weekend, not by a long way.
So as we said, Cesc Fabregas has played his last game in English football. He had the captain's armband as Chelsea beat Nottingham Forest in the FA Cup at the weekend, and it was a very emotional occasion for him, as you might expect, and he got a fantastic reaction from the Chelsea fans. So, after 500 games and 16 years, where does he rank in the all-time greats in the Premier League?
Underrated, I would say. I think most people in their top 5 would be Keane, Scholes, Vieira, Lampard, Gerrard. And Fabregas, unsurprisingly, doesn't get close to them because he's not a one-man player. He was at Arsenal, started as a 16-year-old, captain at 21, and was unlucky really. He came into the team, or was the dominant force in the team at the end of the Invincibles era, which was unlucky for him, so they didn't really win anything. Then went to Barcelona, came back to Chelsea, won a couple of league titles, but has basically been a little bit unlucky to not be compared to those guys, because if you look at his stats, he's got 111 assists, which is brilliant, second only to Ryan Giggs, who played for about 150 years in the Premier League, so unsurprisingly second in that. Scholes is way down at 24 in those rankings, so I would say he's unlucky. What do you think, Tom?
If you think about it, have we seen a better passer of the ball in the Premier League? It's hard to think of anyone, and
not.
One of the key things about Fabregas and the kind of the totality of his career, he had over 100 caps for Spain across their golden era. You know, when their midfield had Andres Iniesta, Xavi, Busquets, and he was kind of the fulcrum of the team in the early part of that. And to have a century of caps and to win all those trophies with Spain, that just shows the quality of the player that Fabregas was and still is, and that the Premier League will be losing.
And it's a shame we're going to say goodbye to Fabregas, because he could really still do a job in most Premier League teams. It's just unfortunate that Sarri's system at Chelsea he doesn't really fit into, with the 3 in midfield and the 3 up top. He could play as a number 10 or a deep lying midfielder, spraying the passes like a quarterback, like he did at Chelsea in their title winning season. But it does show that that particular stint at Chelsea does show that he was very adaptable, because he played under Mourinho and he also played under Wenger in a very different style, so it shows how adaptable he was and how intelligent.
Also underrated for me, his spikiness. During his time at Arsenal, we saw he wasn't afraid to make his mark. You know, even as a really young player, he famously had spats with Mark Hughes.
And a controversial end to the match. A frustrated Cesc Fabregas asked Mark Hughes if he was a former Barcelona player, and went on to say that Blackburn hadn't played Barcelona-style football.
Phil Brown, and of course the infamous Pizzagate.
Were you the culprit who threw the pizza? Yeah!
He had a funny career in a way, Fabregas. He was a better player during his time at Arsenal, but I would argue he's more of a Chelsea legend. If you think back to when he first emerged, he was a genuine superstar at Arsenal when he came through. He was in the PFA Team of the Year twice, he's PFA Young Player of the Year. I think back to a game I was at actually against Aston Villa in 2009 where he was on the bench because he was injured, and Arsenal was struggling, Wenger sent him on for 27 minutes, he scored twice, transformed the game, got injured and had to come off again. That season he scored 15 goals in the league, I think. That was him as a genuine superstar. But the problem at Arsenal was he was the kind of icon of this team, which really never amounted to anything. It was all about bringing through the youth team. Fabregas was by far the best player in that, but the players around him weren't up to standard, so he was let down in that respect. Whereas his time at Chelsea, maybe he didn't hit those heights, but he won 2 Premier Leagues.
So for us, Fabregas rates as one of the best Premier League midfielders of all time, and certainly in terms of passing, possibly, arguably, the best. But it's a little bit unlucky because, as Tom mentioned, he played in an underperforming Arsenal side at the end of the Invincibles period, and then he went away and came back to a rival club, Chelsea. So perhaps that has counted against him in where he ranks in the overall rankings. He possibly doesn't make those top 5 like all those one club wonders that we mentioned earlier. But what do you think? If you think he's one of the best, leave your answers in the comments below.